Blog Talk Radio.
Look out, evildoers! There's a new crime fighter in town! Here comes the Blue Ruthie! Unhunter, criminal scum! Prepare to be brought to justice! But first,
can I buy you a drink?
Alright, we're on the air. This is the V-Spot. I'm Dr. Victator. I tell you, that's going to be a dang good show whenever it airs. I'm having my guest tonight is Glenn Ruth. He was Thrasher of the Headbangers. How you doing, Glenn?
I'm doing great. Was and still is. We're not done yet. We got some more left in us. So keep an eye out. You might see it soon.
All right. I remember the first time I saw you. You were working on the early Raw episodes at the Manhattan Center.
Yep, I was on the very second show ever from of Monday Night Raw against Marty Jannetty. Yep, I was doing enhancement work. Absolutely right.
All right, how long had you been wrestling at that point?
Probably maybe 6 months, something like that. Back then it was when you were in a wrestling school. I went to the Monster Factory, Pretty Boy Larry Sharp, and this is when WWF just wrestled up and down the East Coast. So a lot of their TV shows were from the Manhattan Center and, up and down the East Coast. So we always used to be the ones selected to go, from the wrestling schools and stuff like that. So that's how we managed to step into that. I was in there with Dwayne Gill and Barry Hardy and, Russ Goldberg and all them guys.
How were you treated when you would do these? Because, you never really hear from the guys on the other side. Were you treated as an enhancement worker? Were you treated well by the other wrestlers?
I mean, it was the fact that you were up there, you knew what your job was. Your job was to make these guys superstars, who they were. So, I mean, how did they treat us? They treated us pretty good because, we do one thing wrong, when we're out there in the ring with them, and, it kind of messes them up also. So they treated you pretty good. And, that it's a respect factor in the business. The guys that are just learning the business and stuff like that, come up through that way of getting their asses kicked and everything else. Because I was always told it's a lot harder to make it look believable getting your ass kicked than kicking somebody's ass. That's the easy part. So, it was a give and take. I mean, no, it was we were treated really good. I mean, I don't have anything bad to say. They didn't make us dress out they didn't make us dress outside or, in the boiler room or anything else like that. It wasn't like that.
All right. Now, I know in an early episode you wrestled the Steiners.
Yeah.
How were they to work with?
Oh, they were fine. I mean, they were, it's funny because, you talk to some people and they're like, oh, my God, the Steiners, they were so stiff back then and everything else. That's the way I was trained to wrestle. I was trained to, be tight, as we call it, and stiff and whatnot. But, I never had a problem with them. I went out there and did what I had to do for them, and, it was fine. It was was it a little bit more snug than some people? Of course it was. They were the Steiners. I mean, when you took a Steiner line, it was, you knew it. You definitely knew it.
When did you meet Mosh?
After I was training down at the Monster Factory, I became the head trainer down there, and I trained several guys. And he came through the school as a trainee, and we just hit it off real well. We knew of each other before the school because we both went to, our towns were right next to each other. He wrestled in high school. I wrestled in high school. He graduated a year after I did. So we kind of knew of each other, but we didn't really know each other. And, you know, we just hit it off really good when he came down to school. You know, he was probably the last, I guess, main guy I trained. You know, the other two that everybody will know is D'Lo Brown and also Paul White, which everybody knows him as the Big Show.
All right. How did you do you remember when you met Paul White?
It was down the Monster Factory. It was way before he, you know, went to WCW and stuff like this. This is when he first got into wrestling. I don't remember the year exactly or anything else. It might have been, was it 93, 92?
How athletic was he when he first started?
It was funny because he was extremely athletic. The story we got when he came down to the wrestling school is that he was in the Boston Celtics farm team for basketball. So he was being groomed to be an NBA basketball player. And I don't know if Paul liked that or wanted to always get into wrestling. I don't know. But I know that guy, he was so incredibly athletic when he first came down. I mean, he was 7'2". He was probably right around between 350 and maybe 375. So he was a lot leaner than he is now. And, you know, he was just, his vertical leap was huge back then. So he was incredibly athletic. I mean, and he still is to this day. I mean, you got to figure somebody 7'2" to do what he's been doing for the number of years he's been doing it. The guy's gifted. I mean, this is plain and simple.
Yeah, definitely. Because, you know, I'll look at some of the things he does, you know, and I just think about, you know, like if I just come off a step wrong, you know, I feel like my knees are going to break.
There you go.
Now, when did you decide to start teaming with Mosh, whose name, Chaz, that's his name. I couldn't remember it for the life of me.
It was weird because, you know, what Larry Sharp used to do down at the Monster Factory, he would have school shows. You know, once a month he would bring in a top name from, you know, WWF at the time or, you know, WCW or, you know, just a local big name. So, you know, through the first 2 years of me being in the business, you know, Chaz started back in 93 or 94. And, you know, I got to meet, you know, Jim Cornette, Jerry Lawler. You know, all these guys had, you know, wrestling promotions in different states where they were territories, and you could actually go there and wrestle, you know, 4, 5, 6 nights a week. And, you know, I always had an invitation through Jerry Lawler and Jim Cornette, you know, to go down. But, you know, you've always heard the horror stories about, you know, you go down there and you starve and it's, you know, hard to live down there by yourself and blah, blah, blah. So it was something I never wanted to do by myself. So, you know, after, you know, the 2 years or so that I've, you know, tried to do it on my own, he just came down, we just started talking, and, you know, one thing led to another, and there it was. It was probably the most natural thing that I think has ever happened to me in wrestling. It just felt like, you know, all the moves that he was doing in the ring, he you know, it reminded me of myself, you know, when I first started and everything else. It was just right. You could just, you knew. It's hard to explain. It's just one of those feelings, kind of like when you meet that right girl. You just know. I don't want to, you know, compare him to a woman or nothing, but, you know, he is my longest relationship I've had. So.
When did you come up with the gimmick for the Headbangers?
Actually, we did not come up with it. We were wrestling in hoods, and we were called the Spiders, and we were down at USWA for Jerry Lawler, wrestling as the Spiders. And, you know, our time there, you know, was coming to a close, and so I contacted Jim Cornette and said, hey, Jimmy, you know, we're finishing up over here at USWA. Do you have anything for us over there? He's like, you know, Glenn, I really love you guys. You know, I love, you know, your whole team and what you guys are doing, but I just can't stand the masks. He goes, if we can do something without the hoods on, that would be great. So, a couple days later, he calls us up. He goes, listen, he goes, I went to this heavy metal concert. Now, mind you, we've always had the tattoos and the piercings and, everything else. He's like, I went to this heavy metal concert and I saw all these guys with these tattoos and the piercings and all this stuff, and they, they were spitting on each other and they were listening to that god-awful music that you guys listen to and everything else. He goes, it was like a headbanger's ball. He goes, and that's where I came up with it. He goes, I'm going to call you guys the Headbangers, Mosh and Slasher. And we were like, well, Jimmy, there's a guy in a band called Slash. I don't think that would be a great name. And he goes, all right, Thrasher. So Jim Cornette came up with the name the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher.
Okay. Now, I remember back in 1995, this back when I was buying all the magazines, and you guys popped up a few times.
Uh-huh.
And, do you remember that? Would it be a big deal to turn up in a magazine?
It's weird because, the magazines, it's whoever the publishers or anything else, whoever their heart on is for that week, that's who they're going to publish anyway. Regardless of, the talent or what they're doing or anything else like that. I don't hold a lot of stock in the dirt sheets or, the all the newsletters and all that other, stuff. It is what it is. You're going to have people that love you. You're going to have people that hate you. So, I don't hold, much into it. As long as I keep working steadily, I got to be doing something right.
Yeah, I think this was an issue of Wrestling Superstars when they were doing, like, the top 20 teams, and I think you guys were, like, 17.
Don't know. That's good, though. I'll take 17.
Now, one thing I remember is I remember seeing you and Mosh on the WF show as the Spiders, taking on Smoking Guns, or was it or the Body Donnas?
Yeah, well, what we did is when we were still down in USWA for Jerry Lawler and stuff like that, from time to time we would come up and do job matches and everything. The experience that you get from going to, the big show is what we want to call WWF, WWE. It's the big show. It's the NFL of wrestling. It is, where everybody wants to get to and everything else. So if you have an opportunity, regardless of what you're going to be doing for them, you're going to go. You can't buy, you can't learn that experience that you get from being in front of the lights, being around the talent that's around there. Sitting next to guys in the locker room like The Undertaker and Yokozuna and, Big John Studd. You don't get that experience like from King Kong Bundy sitting there listening to these guys talk about experiences and life on the road and stuff. You can't buy that kind of experience. You just can't. So anytime that we ever had a chance to go up there, we jumped on it. It was that easy. Did it hurt us? Did it prevent us from making it? No, absolutely not. It probably helped us because everybody already knew who we were. And then we came up with the hit, then we got the Headbanger thing, and it was just something that worked. So, all them, it's funny because when you were back at that time and you were labeled a job guy or you were on TV doing jobs and stuff like that, you're going to be a guy that never makes it to, you'll never get a full-time contract and you'll never, be anything in wrestling because you'll always be labeled a job guy. That necessarily doesn't work. So that's not true.
Yeah, I was looking at one of the reasons I was asking because the match stood out for me at the time because you guys got a lot of offense in for guys that weren't a part of the roster.
Well, with the Body Adonises, I was good friends with Chris Candido. I was real good friends. He came from the Monster Factory. We knew Tom Pritchard. We were good friends with them. So at the time when you're close to these guys, they also want to, help move people along and help, help their careers and stuff like that, because that's only going to help them. In the long run, having more people to wrestle, different people to work with, and things like that. So, they gave us probably more offense than most, so they could take a look at us and see what we had and stuff like that. So, that's probably right.
All right. You guys had a lot of cool double teams, especially at that point in the 90s when it seemed like a lot of tag teams were getting kind of homogenized. They didn't seem to have as many double teams as they did like in the 80s. Like you would have that superplex thing. When did you start? How long would it take you? How would y'all work those double teams out?
Well, it's funny, when we first started tagging together, we got, because Jim Cornette used to come down to the Monster Factory, once a month, every 2 months. He would come down there a lot because he was good friends with Larry Sharp and Chris Candido. So he would visit the school for the shows a lot, and he always told us, if you guys want to be a tag team, watch some of the old tapes. We would watch, the Rockers. We would watch Ricky and Robert, the Rock and Roll Express. We would watch the Midnight Express. We would watch, the Legion, Hawk and Animal. We would watch the Road Wars. We would watch, the Freebirds. We would watch a lot of the older tag teams, and we would take bits and pieces, because that's what makes tag team wrestling special for me, is that aspect of it, because you can't do that by yourself. Some of the coolest things that you can do is you can do it with somebody else. So we took a lot of stuff. We watched a lot of tape and stuff like that, and we would always try stuff out of the school. The first couple of times that we did the stage dive, which is Chaz does the power bomb, I do the leg drop off the top rope, which is our finish, is the first person to ever take that was D'Lo Brown. Can't tell you the number of times I sat on his face trying to get that timing down and everything else, but it's something that it worked itself out, and that move, it was something that I dreamt about the night before and wrote it down, woke up in the middle of the night, wrote it down, and tried it out in the school. It's a weird thing to describe, but, when you're in training and stuff like that, I always slept with a notepad next to my bed, because you would lay in bed and you would dream different moves. And 9 times out of 10, when you wake up the next day, you forget about it. It's just normal. But I would wake up and I would write it down, and then I would go back to sleep. I'd wake up and I've had like 4 or 5 moves written down on this pad next to my bed and go, the hell is this from? So, we got quite a bit of from, watching the old tapes and also doing that.
Now, on the first episode of Shotgun Saturday Night, you guys debuted as Brother Love's tag team, the Sisters of Love. Was that intended to? Was that just going to be a gimmick for the late night show, or were they actually thinking of using that as a full-time gimmick for you too?
Well, it was weird because it was a Vince McMahon creation, and back then, if Vince came up with a gimmick for you, one, you knew it was going to get pushed and you were going to be used a lot on TV. 2, you were just happy that Vince recognized, hey, he saw something in you. He's like, hey, I want to, do something with these guys. I want to give them this name. So you were just excited for those 2 facts alone. What was told to us is when we first started doing it is what Vince was going to do is he was going to wrap both gimmicks into one. He was going to have us do, the Sisters of Love, on the SmackDown shows, the late night show, and then the other shows we were going to do the Headbangers, and then all of a sudden it was going to evolve into each other. And it was going to come out by going, these guys are so crazy, so nuts, so off the wall, they don't care what they wear. They just want to get in there and, bang some heads. Look at these guys, they're wearing nun outfits. But, as certain things happen, the church got involved and got several pieces of mail to the office, from the Christians and everything else. So, Vince did what he thought was right and stopped it. So.
How was Brother Love to work with?
Bruce was great. I mean, smart, brilliant, taught us a lot. I mean, taught us a lot about, tag team wrestling and everything else. Because you got to figure that guy, he's been in the business for, back then, forever. I mean, he was just, he would put us in the right places and, explain to us, when you guys are doing this, cut off the ring, do this, do that. He's been around. He's seen the best of the best. So, and we got really close and good friends with Bruce. And, he's just, one of those great guys. Everybody always has stories about, Bruce is this and Bruce is that. Never, I still to this day, I couldn't tell you a bad thing about Bruce Pritchard.
All right. Now, a few months into this, you were working as the Headbangers, and you worked against Doug Furnas and Phil LaFawn a few times.
Uh-huh.
Now, in another interview I saw with the Godwins, they said that Furnas and LaFawn were very difficult to work with.
They were difficult to work with because they were mostly overseas wrestlers. Like they were, their whole background was from Japan. So it was a little bit harder for them to get, I guess, Americanized to the American style of wrestling and stuff like that. And so they were a little bit harder to work with. Sometimes you have to adapt to their style. It was kind of, a mesh of both that we tried to always do with them. We were trying to do spots, but then we would also try to do their style, and with the kicks and the throws and stuff like that. That's kind of what we did. But yeah, it was a little bit difficult because they were in the Japanese style mode more than the American style.
I noticed when I was watching tapes, because I watch a lot of old wrestling, and I would watch them in Japan, and it was strange because they would show a lot of charisma and personality in the Japanese matches, but when they got to the WWF, it seemed like they lost something.
Well, what it is over there is the crowd has no charisma. The crowd has no reaction. So there's no crowd feedback over there like there is here. Here the crowd is very boisterous, very loud, very there. They're very right there. They let you know what's going on. Over there, they sit there, they take everything in, they process it. They get excited for pinfalls and kickouts and stuff like that. Every now and then for a big move, they'll give a woo. But they're not as boisterous. They're not in your face yelling at you and stuff like that. I've worked Japan, quite a few times, and that's how I took it. It wasn't, you didn't work the crowd over in Japan, you worked your opponent. Now over here, you work your opponent and the crowd. So.
One thing is that I noticed, I was thinking about this in '98 for you guys after you lost the WF tag titles. You had a feud with the Rock and Roll Express and Insane Clown Posse later in the year. How was it working with the Rock and Roll Express?
Legendary. They're one of the tag teams that we used to watch tapes on and, get moves from and, just watch the tag team theory, from them and stuff like that. So it was great. I mean, especially back then, Ricky and Robert taught us a lot. We were with them also in Smoky Mountain Wrestling before we went up to the WWE. And, it's guys like that paved the way for us, that gave us some knowledge, gave us feedback, gave us the experience to be able to do what that we love to do. And that's kind of where we sit now is, after coming back together, a year and a half ago, we're ready to give back. I still feel that we have, plenty left in us. All we need is, the opportunity, the chance to prove, I guess, to either one of the companies that we can still do what we say we do. You know, I personally am in the best shape that I've ever been in my life. Very extremely proud of that, because I was never one that watched what I eat. You know, I wasn't a big gym rat and stuff like that. And I'm very conscious of, you know, what I put in my body now, what I eat, how I work out and everything else. And, you know, after I left the WWF, I didn't wrestle for 12 years. So I may be in my early 40s, but I have a body and the wear and tear on my body as a 30-year-old. So that's why I still feel like we have more to offer, and that we could really have a good, 5 years left in us to give back, to contribute to, one of the federations. I really think that we could.
Now, later in the year, when you were feuding with the Oddities, you were working along with the Insane Clown Posse, and I noticed that angle ended, that whole thing ended rather abruptly, like the Insane Clown Posse just disappeared. Do you know what the story was there?
Well, what was going to happen is the Insane Clown Posse came in. They have a music background, of course. Us with being Headbangers is a music background, of course. And what was going to happen is the Insane Clown Posse wanted to be with us. They wanted to, the Headbangers and ICP wanted to have a run together. So when Vince wanted to put them with the Oddities and then have them switch over to us, mid-story and stuff like that, it didn't happen fast enough, I guess, for them. They were very, very new in the business. This was before they ever went to WCW or anything else. This was their first experience in the wrestling business. So, they may have went about it the wrong way, because from what we heard, now don't know how much of this is the truth. What we heard is every time we were doing TVs, they would always be, talking to Vince about, we're going with the Headbangers, or we're going with the Headbangers. We really need to switch with the Headbangers. We really, we need to be with. You don't tell Vince what to do as a talent. You can suggest things, but you don't tell him that you need to do something. It's just not how it was. At least that's not how it was for us. So, finally Vince came up to us and he goes, these guys won't be back tomorrow. I want you guys to go out there and, make sure they don't come back tomorrow. So that was when we called them out and had the match. And, those guys, they took everything that we could give them. And we've worked with them recently in the past year. They have their own federation. It's called JCW, Juggalo Championship Wrestling. And they thanked us. They thanked us for, breaking them into the business the way we did and everything else. There was no hard feelings. There was no heat between either one of us. It was business. It was, our jobs. So, they went on and went to WCW and had a great thing down there. So, all the stories that there was heat between the Headbangers and, ICP was just, something, again, that was made up from the dirt sheets and, these columns and everything else. So that's why I never held much weight into them.
All right, we're running out of time. The last thing I'm going to ask, with what little time we got left, is you and Mosh, y'all kind of disappeared for a few months early in '99. Then the Beaver cleavage gets started. It ended kind of abruptly.
I was out. I dislocated my knee, and I tore my ACL and my medial meniscus. So I went in and had my ACL replaced, and then I started coming back, and I had to get my medial meniscus also removed. So I was out for about 9 months. Now, they didn't want Chaz just to sit home and do nothing, so they came up with something for him to do, until I came came back and everything else, so they had him grow out his hair, did the whole beaver cleavage thing, and then they started that GTV thing, where that GTV was supposed to be me spying on him and letting them know, hey, look what she's doing to you, blah, blah, blah. You know, dump that chick and let's just go do our thing again. So that's why that ended up so abruptly.
Okay, so it was always intended for, that was just something to kill time until you got back.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
All right,
Yep.
Let me ask, what was the deal with the bras?
Yeah, it was the Vince thing. It's funny when I use the example of Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder has done nothing but get himself over since day one that he's been with WWE. We did the same thing. We've never really gotten a big, huge push when we were on TV or anything else like that. You know, we went out there, the fans got us over. The fans have gotten Zack Ryder over. So Vince knew he could do anything and everything he wanted to us and not have the fans shit on us. And so no matter what he did, no matter how many times we lost or what we dressed like or what we looked like or anything else, what we came out as, he knew the fans were always going to be there for us. Kind of like the same thing he does with Zack Ryder. It's I don't know. It's a Vince thing. Vince thought it would be, you know, different to change up our outfits and get a little bit more edgier and stuff like that. So he, you know, came up. He always had a thing with us, I guess, and you know, breastises and stuff because you know we had the whole boob thing when we did the flying nuns, and then he wanted us to have the boobs as the headbangers. I don't know what it was. Maybe we just looked like guys that needed to have boobs. I don't know. But hey, your boss tells you to do something, you're going to do it. That's how it was.
Yeah, it was funny. I was watching on the on-demand that they have the Royal Rumble 2000, and you guys came out, and my nephew looked at me. He's 9 years old. He says, "Why are those guys wearing bras?" And I just told him, I said, "Well, it's unnerving for their opponents."
It's because we can. That's why.
All right, man. I know you got to get going soon. I just want to thank you again for coming on the show. It was a lot of fun.
All right, man. No problem. Anytime.
All right, man. You have a good night.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Next week on the Blue Rupee. Merciful my teeth! I've been knocked out by my arch nemesis, Corporal Chloroform. Must reach GHB packet and slip it into his beverage!
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million. What color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.